Time now, in advance of the Calcutta Cup clash, which is keenly awaited by both sets of supporters, to speak to someone who will feature heavily. It's Ellis Genge, the England prop and Leicester captain. Hello, Ellis.
Hello, mate. You all right?
Yeah, first of all, can I say congratulations on what you've been doing at Leicester and the turnaround that's come there. How much do you think your extra responsibilities there have helped you as a player and with England?
Um, well, I've only featured really with England once since that, obviously in that Tonga game. It's weird, isn't it? Once someone makes you captain, people sort of perceive you to be in a different light. Sort of start speaking to you differently. It was the same when I had a kid. Everyone thinks you, everyone thinks you automatically grow up and leave all your sort of childish tendencies behind. Have I grown up yet? Probably. Am I aware of it? Not massively. I guess people listen to you a little bit more. You have to take on a little bit more responsibility, and I guess it just pushes your performance on the pitch because you need to perform for those blokes to take you seriously.
When you're looking at the leadership thing, I mean, there are umpteen books and articles on leadership and so on. Did you study any of those, or do you just take it, from your natural personality and see what comes?
Well, I was put into the role for acting naturally and sort of putting my own sprinkle of leadership style on it. But I've tried to educate myself, looked at other leaders, numerous leaders. It's tough, isn't it? Because like all the great leaders, I guess there's so much knowledge about all the different things besides rugby union. Unless you look at someone like Jono or people like that. I'm lucky enough to have Steve Borthwick, who obviously captained his country 40 odd times, I think, and then obviously was captain of Bath and Saracens and won numerous trophies. So Steve's helped me massively. Only book I've read, which I guess relates to leadership, is something called The Inner Game of Tennis. I don't know if you've read that book.
I know of it. I will read it now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's a good book. Steve lent that one to me. So yeah, I've read that. For me, I think once you've read one, you've almost read them all. I think they've all just got different stories. Until obviously you find a unique example. Um, so yeah.
Ellis, we've been hearing a lot about Leicester and the way they've gone about the process of recruitment and analysis and so on. Moneyball has been mentioned. I don't know if you've seen the film. Good film, Brad Pitt. Well worth watching. Can you tell me how that impacts you as a player? I mean, do they divulge these things to you? Do they analyse these things with you?
I think I was a little bit more heavily involved when obviously I um, was probably perceived to stay at the club for my imminent future. And then, as you'd imagine, he's probably speaking to Hamro and other people about the future of the club now. But prior to that, yeah, I had an inkling, I guess, of how we wanted to build the squad. But I think the most important thing, something that me and Steve have always kept very clear, is the now. And how we wanted the squad to develop throughout the year. So obviously we had a lot of young boys, and then probably myself in the middle with Tommy Rafael, Hamro, Jasper, a few boys sort of in their mid-20s, and then at the other end of the scale you got Ben Youngs, Dan Cole, Tom Youngs at the time. So for us it was very hard for the balance of the club, which is age at this end, kids, wife, complete different goals, and then young kids who are just trying to break into the system, really put their best foot forward, but enjoy themselves at the same time. And then obviously you had a few of us in the middle. So I think the vast majority of our leadership group was in the middle. The spine of our club was in the middle in terms of myself, Hammer, Tommy, a few others. And I feel what we've done at the club, which is helped sort of propel it to where it is now. And Steve's obviously highlighted that, is that put the best people in the best roles in terms of like you've got people who understand empathetically where people are at emotionally, physically, and just being honest. We've got a very honest, open relationship. So yeah, at the moment it's doing quite well. Obviously we didn't get the result on the weekend at Sale, but it's done us well so far.
Ellis, you're less than 5 days away now from one of the most exciting Six Nations campaigns that many people have been looking forward to. How has camp been so far this year, and how has it potentially been any different from last year's that was so heavily impacted by COVID?
They're just worlds apart, mate. I think we were extremely strict with our COVID rules. As you probably heard, we were in our rooms, not coming out, eating our dinner in our room and stuff. So I think in the Premiership it's tough because everyone's at different clubs almost, and like although we had a lot of boys from one club last year. I think you look at like Scotland, for example, they got Edinburgh, Glasgow, where 99% of their players are out the Welsh regions, obviously. And the same with Leinster and those Irish clubs. So for us last year, there was a lot of easy excuses for us to make. I think with this year, just the way where camp's been, I think we've bonded so well off the pitch. I think that summer tour, obviously we didn't tour anyway, we stayed in England, but that summer test series really helped us with Canada, USA, blood and a lot of new players who are obviously part of the core of the squad now. And obviously the boys being away with the Lions as well, coming back and they get better and they want more, they get hungrier. Time will tell. Obviously we've done well in that autumn series, went 3-0. But that means nothing, obviously, if you don't back it up in the Six Nations. It's a complete different beast. You're halfway through a domestic campaign now, which has obviously been quite attritional. A few injuries and stuff, but I think camp's been brilliant, like bonding off the pitch, new faces. Yeah, really exciting. But sorry to drag that out. In answer to your question, I think what we've been doing off the pitch this time around, mainly due to COVID restrictions, has just been significantly better than where we left ourselves last year.
And one player that hasn't been involved in camp as much as probably England fans would like to see is Owen Farrell. How much of an impact will him being away from the squad for the next few weeks have, both on the field and off the field?
Look, Faz is a massive influence off the pitch as well as on the pitch. He's a class leader. You've seen what he's done with Sarries and England. Big personality. He's not massively like loud and big and laughing and joking in terms of like socially, but like he's just a great leader, all-round leader, great player. But you got to fill those gaps, and obviously that is a void. We spoke about, we've addressed it, and we've got a good leadership group. We said like the other day, what happens if the core of this group, like 16 players or 15 players, all dropped down with COVID and couldn't play? And we asked ourselves, do you think we'd still be in a good spot? And I honestly think, yeah, we would, with the depth and where we've put ourselves in terms of where we've geared ourselves to go towards. I do think genuinely that we'd be fine, which is obviously detriment to the boys of what they've done off the pitch.
Now, Ellis, I know you wouldn't say even if you did know, so I'm not going to put you in that position, but do you know who the captain's going to be?
No. I genuinely, no, you're right. I probably wouldn't tell you if I did know. But
No, you shouldn't do either. But
no, I know, but I don't know.
Okay,
no.
mate.
And we got a leadership group. I think, like a lot of people obviously think captaincy is a huge role, but I think once you go from club to international and you make that step up, the old cliche of everyone's a leader, not all the time. You know, sometimes too many cooks spoil the broth. So I think for us, we always speak about just doing our job. And a lot of the time, if you do your job to the best of your ability, firstly, people will follow. And secondly, not much goes wrong, which obviously makes it a lot easier for those people to make decisions.
Now, I was told that Eddie Jones' nickname for you was Gangster. Now, I don't know if that's right, but
no, not for a long time.
Not for a long time. Which begs the second question: how has your relationship developed with him since you first were called up in 2016?
Yeah, I guess Eddie almost seen it as like a father-in role, because I was obviously so young when I come in, 20 years old, living away from home. My old man's a big influence to me, and obviously when I spent time away from him at that age, I probably played up a bit, acted a bit of a bad boy, if you will, and trying to get in the scuffles all the time and training and stuff like that. And I think what Eddie sort of opened my eyes to is that it just drains you so much emotionally. Like, I've got a lot more to give on the pitch rather than just pushing and shoving, because as you well know, Brian, you can't hit anyone anymore. So there ain't much point wasting your energy trying to push and drag people around. And don't get me wrong, I'll probably be times where I will do that, as you seen 3 weeks ago. But it's in you, isn't it? It's the nature of the beast. But yeah, he's just been such a good guide for me as to how to channel my energy into being the best player I can be and leading in that way, as opposed to trying to be the old 1980s enforcer.
Yeah, well, I mean, mate, look, you have to play on or near the edge if that is what you do habitually. It's just a question of, in that instant moment, very quickly thinking, do I need to do this, or can I do it later, or whatever? But this is going to come up when you step on the field at Murrayfield. I'm sure you're aware of this. The physical challenge that they will bring straight away onto you is going to be there. You won't have Courtney there either, so you'll have a revised sort of back row. And how are you going to deal with that physical the physical challenge that they will bring in all aspects, actually, set piece and in the at breakdowns?
Head on. Straight on the barrel, I guess. I can't think of a name in my head that would shy away from the challenge. I'm certainly not going to. And whoever takes the pitch that day, I've got utter faith that they do the same. Like you know, mate, everyone who plays England always goes up a gear. Physically, it's always look, you'd be disappointed, wouldn't you, if a test match wasn't physical, if a test match wasn't intense, if the collisions weren't big and the game wasn't fast. That's what test rugby is. That's why it's a step up. I'm sure Scotland are going to come with a big physical plan and try out. So honestly, genuinely be upset if they didn't. So I look forward to it. I'm sure all the boys do as well.
One of the things that I think England do well, when they do it well, everything ticks off this, is when you can get some variety into the ball carry instead of just the one outs. You know, you've got the balls inside, you've got the deep ball, the ball round, and so on. You, Kyle Sinclair, whichever the hooker plays, are capable of being dexterous and feeding so that the defences have to guess when they're covering things. How much work are you doing on trying to bring something different and pose different questions for that set defence?
I think like rugby just evolves so much year on year. I think at the moment it's probably gone back to a set piece dominant and kicking dominant game. But that's not something that we want to square ourselves off to. We want to be able to, as you just said, like bring the variety with the ball playing options and all that. But I think something that we probably forgot last year was that you got to go through teams first to earn the right to take an edge or earn the right to put pressure on the corners and stuff like that. So I think at the forefront of our mind is probably, let's go up front for, I don't know. You just got to play what you see, haven't you? Play to space. I don't know. I'm not probably the wrong person to ask about how tactically we're going to boss them around the pitch.
You're going to have several untried combinations because of people going down with COVID, and unavailability and so on. Halfbacks not settled, centre pairing new, back three new. How much can you get in training as opposed to, I know it's not like a game, but how close do you think you can get to fluency, just being in camp?
Yeah, I think the biggest growth you got in terms of being in camp is probably developing relationships off the pitch. I think a big thing that Courts always harps on about is that if you play for each other, like you're going to be able to rely on that more than someone who plays for themselves. And yeah, it is tough. It is tough finding those combinations. And the hardest bit about this as well is that we don't know who's going to play. Obviously, Eddie selects a team, and we genuinely find out a day before you maybe. So in training, obviously you get the people who are in one team, people in another, but you always have to be conscious, I guess, of not just making sure you're all right with this scrum half or making sure you're taking pass of that fly half, because as you said, with the nature of the game at the moment with COVID and stuff and people dropping out, you never know who's going to fill that role. But look, we've got a great squad, everyone's involved to 100% in training, and yeah, we've got a good thing going. So
you talk about the squad, Ellis, and new faces, new energy, new enthusiasm within the squad. Who excites you? What excites you the most about having those youngsters in, and who's really putting their hand up and I guess leading when actually they've come in as a fairly new player? Who's standing up for you?
Right this second, we only trained properly once, I guess, last week, maybe twice, you could say, just because of the fire outside the hotel in Brighton. So we haven't been exposed to training with each other too much. We'll probably make up for that this week. But in terms of players coming in, I think there's like 16 people who haven't played in a Six Nations campaign before. So it's just a good opportunity. Everyone's excited. Like you'd be upset if they're not. Like everyone needs to be excited for a Six Nations campaign, and we'll train later on today. So I have to get back to you on that one. I haven't seen too much yet.
How do you think the Six Nations differs as a tournament from, say, the Autumn Series?
I think there's obviously significantly more history behind the Six Nations campaign. I think we played our first Calcutta Cup game against Scotland in 1879, 143 years ago, I think, if my maths is right. Which obviously so much history behind it. So does it mean more? I don't know. But obviously everyone, with all the history that you've seen between England, Wales, Ireland, obviously everyone being, and like Le Crunch and stuff like that, Brian's favourite. and the Italians and stuff, like there's just so much history behind it that you can track and follow, go back, look at games, even last year, you know. So I guess that's why there's a little bit more excitement about it. And with the autumns, it's more or less people coming over and playing against you. It's Twickenham, I know, but with the Six Nations going to other people's stadiums, like going up to Murrayfield, going to the Aviva, all these places, it just has a different atmosphere, I guess, especially when they're packed out.
You're absolutely right about it meaning more to the supporters, undoubtedly. I just wondered, it's impossible. I mean, I know players say, I don't read this, I don't watch that, I don't listen to this, but things filter through. Do you feel the edge, from the outside, or is that something you work actively to say, look, it's just another game?
I don't know, half and half. I think, as I said, you don't know if you're playing until later in the week, so you don't really focus on that. You focus on training as best you can, preparing as best you can, be ready for anything. And then as soon as, I don't know, say someone gets given their debut, I guess they get hit with a world of emotion closer to the time. And that's when they'll start seeing messages and their parents will be on their back and they'll probably start feeling different pressures. So yeah, it's different for every individual. I guess it's tough for me to answer that myself. Yeah, of course I see people. I'm not the most popular bloke in the world of rugby. I've had my moments and stuff. So yeah, I get a fair bit of grief, but fuck it, it's part and parcel of the game, innit? I'm not really too bothered what other people think of me, to be frank.
That's it, Ellis. Look, candid as I knew you would be. Can I just wish you all the best and say, I hope that your personal development keeps going the way it's been. Because I've watched your career right from the beginning. I know we had a bit of a tete-a-tete to start with, but I'm genuinely very impressed, mate.
Thank you very much, Brian. I really appreciate that. And
just go and win. Just go and win.
We'll leave it at that.